All right, so picture this. You've just gotten this incredible opportunity.
Uh-huh.
It could be a chance to jet off to Kuala Lumpur for a big business meeting, or maybe even more exciting, the idea of actually moving there,
Right.
immersing yourself in a totally new culture.
Yeah.
But then that practical side of you kicks in, and it's like, wait a minute, what about the visa situation?
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, that initial excitement can get a bit overshadowed by uncertainty.
Absolutely. I think that's such a relatable feeling for anyone who's ever even considered, a longer trip or definitely a move abroad. It's like the visa process. It's
Yeah.
almost like this mysterious thing. It's important, but the actual specifics of it can be so intimidating and cause a lot of unnecessary stress.
Yeah, 100%.
I
And that's
think
exactly what we are diving deep into today.
I like it.
We are zeroing in on the Malaysia visa process, and specifically with Kuala Lumpur in mind.
Nice.
And for this deep dive, we're tapping into the expertise of moveandstay.com.
Okay.
They've been helping business travelers and expats in Asia for over 25 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, like finding accommodation, understanding the local regulations. They've got this deep understanding of the visa landscape, which is super valuable.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're going to demystify this whole process together.
Awesome.
And if we kind of zoom out for a second and think about it, getting the visa right is really the foundation for a successful trip or relocation.
Right.
If you mess it up, it can lead to some serious setbacks.
Oh, yeah. Huge ones.
So clarity from the get-go is super important.
It's essential.
So our aim today is to eliminate that confusion.
Love it.
We are going to explore all the different visa options, whether you're just popping over to KL for a quick business trip or thinking about a more permanent expat experience.
Great.
We'll break it all down so you can feel informed, prepared, and hopefully avoid any nasty surprises.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, a good place to start might be with the very first hurdle that a lot of people face, which is, where do you even begin to figure out these visa requirements? And I think one of the key takeaways from moveandstay.com's experience is that you have to understand that different visas exist for very specific reasons and lengths of stay. It's not just a one-size-fits-all situation.
It's so true. Before you even start looking at specific visa types, you've got to figure out why are you traveling and how long are you planning to stay.
Exactly.
MoveAndStay.com really emphasizes that upfront research is key.
Yeah, it's essential. It's kind of like that saying, measure twice, cut once, but for travel.
Totally.
All right, so let's break it down a bit. We can start by distinguishing between short-term business travel and then the requirements for those longer-term expat stays.
Okay, that was good.
So let's dive into the world of business trips first. What are some of the typical visa options that someone would need to think about if they were heading to Kuala Lumpur for like a conference or a series of meetings?
Okay, so according to MoveAndStay.com, there are three main short-term visa categories. Okay, you've got the single entry visa, or SEV. This one's pretty straightforward. Designed for a single visit, usually valid for between 30 and 90 days.
Okay,
Ideal for those quick meetings, conferences, short-term projects.
makes sense.
The basic requirements are your passport, proof of a return ticket, and some documents showing you have enough money to cover your stay.
Okay, standard stuff.
But here's the catch with the SEV. It becomes invalid the moment you leave Malaysia.
Oh, that's a good point to emphasize.
Yeah, so if your plans change and you need to go back in, you'll have to apply for a whole new visa.
So that leads to the question, what if you know you're going to be traveling in and out of Malaysia multiple times for business? What's the option there?
That's where the multiple entry visa, or MEV, comes in.
Ah, the MEV.
This one can be a lifesaver for frequent business travelers.
I bet.
It lets you enter and exit multiple times within a specific time frame, but each stay is usually capped at 30 days.
Okay, so good for those regular quick trips, but not if you need to stay for an extended period.
Exactly. The requirements are similar to the SEV, but you'll probably also need to show evidence of your business activities and financial records to prove you're a genuine frequent visitor.
Yeah, like you're not just taking advantage of it, you're actually there for business.
Right. And then there's the Visa on Arrival, or VOA.
Okay, the VOA. This is the one that people always hope for.
Yeah, this is for citizens of certain countries, and you can get it right at certain entry points in Malaysia.
All right.
Primarily for tourism and short business visits. Gives you up to 30 days, and it's usually non-extendable.
Okay.
You'll need your passport proof of onward travel, like a flight ticket out of Malaysia and a hotel booking.
This is pretty simple.
It does, but here's the crucial part.
Okay.
Eligibility, moveandstay.com
Yeah.
is very clear about this. Not every nationality qualifies for the VOA.
So you really can't just assume it's going to be there waiting for you.
Exactly. You have to check the requirements for your specific passport before you even think about traveling.
Yeah, relying on the VOA when you're not eligible could lead to some pretty sticky situations at the airport.
Absolutely.
So the big takeaway for our listeners is do your research.
Yeah, don't leave it to chance.
Don't wing it when it comes to visas.
Not a good idea.
No, not at all. And regardless of which short-term visa you end up getting, it's incredibly important to be aware of and stick to the visa compliance rules in Malaysia.
Right.
Overstaying or doing anything that's not allowed under your visa can have some pretty serious consequences.
Yeah, we are talking fines, detention, even deportation.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with that. It's like that reminder that as fun as it is to explore a new country, you are still bound by their rules.
Definitely. All right, so we've covered those quick trips.
Yeah.
Now, what about people who are thinking about a longer stay in Kuala Lumpur?
Right. The people who are really looking to settle in for a bit, what are their options?
Okay, so for those folks thinking long-term, there are a few key visas to consider.
Right.
First up,
Yeah.
the employment pass.
Okay, the classic.
This is the standard route for skilled foreign professionals who have a job offer from a Malaysian company. Usually lasts up to 5 years, depending on your contract and the category you qualify for.
Right.
And the interesting thing is the company hiring you usually handles a big chunk of the application.
That's a big help. Navigating those work permit systems can be a real headache.
You can be. Then we have the Malaysia, My Second Home program, or MM2H.
MM2H, that one sounds interesting.
This one's for people looking to retire or live in Malaysia long term, and they have the financial means to do so.
Okay.
It offers a 10-year visa, which is renewable, and some nice perks, like being able to buy property.
Oh, wow, that's attractive.
But of course, there are financial requirements,
Yeah.
like maintaining a fixed deposit at a Malaysian bank.
Makes sense. They want to make sure you're not going to be a financial burden.
Right. Then there's the student visa.
Okay, for those who are hitting the books.
This is for anyone who wants to study at a recognized educational institution in Malaysia.
Right.
It's valid for the length of your study program.
Got it.
You'll need to prove you have enough money to support yourself, and the institution often helps with the application. That's helpful.
But keep in mind, student visas usually have restrictions on full-time work.
So you really are there to focus on your studies.
Right. And with all these long-term visas, moveandstay.com really stresses that you need to check official sources for the most up-to-date information.
Oh, absolutely. These regulations can change, and you don't want to be caught off guard.
Exactly. Now let's dive a little deeper into the work visas.
Okay, let's unpack those.
Malaysia has different types of work passes besides the general employment pass.
Got it. So what are some of the other categories that people should know about?
Well, as we mentioned, the employment pass has categories A and TA.
Right.
Your eligibility depends on things like your salary and the terms of your contract.
Excellent.
Then there's the professional visit pass, or PVP.
Okay, PVP. What's that one for?
This one's for people who are contracted by a Malaysian company, but they're employed and paid by an overseas company.
Interesting. So their main job is still outside of Malaysia.
Right, it's more for project-based or specialized work.
But you'll need a sponsor in Malaysia to apply.
Okay, so there's still that local connection.
Yep. And there's a little quirk that moveandstay.com pointed out. A student pass can sometimes be a way for partners of people with employment offers to stay in Malaysia.
Oh, really? So it doesn't let them work full-time, but it can be a legal way for them to be in the country.
Exactly.
So that's a good little loophole to know about if you're in that situation.
Yeah.
All right, so what about the eligibility criteria for these work passes? What do people need to have in order to even apply?
So for the employment pass, you need a genuine job offer from a registered Malaysian company.
Makes sense.
The employer also needs to explain why they need to hire a foreigner for the role.
Right. They have to justify it.
And there are minimum salary thresholds, which vary depending on the category.
Okay, so you have to be earning a certain amount.
For the PVP, you need that sponsor in Malaysia.
Right.
And for the student pass, you need to be enrolled in a recognized institution.
Pretty straightforward. Okay, so let's walk through the application process. What does that typically look like for someone trying to get a work pass in Malaysia?
All right, so moveandstay.com says that usually the employer handles most of this.
Okay, so it's on them to take the lead?
First, the employer registers with the Expatriate Committee,
Yeah.
which is the government body that manages foreign talent.
Got it.
Then they need to get approval from that committee, which sometimes means dealing with other government agencies.
Okay.
Once they have the approvals, they can officially apply for the work permit.
Okay.
And when the employee arrives in Malaysia, the employer usually submits their passport to get the work pass sticker endorsed.
Got it. So it's a very employer-driven process.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And moveandstay.com made a point of saying you can only work for the company that sponsored your work pass.
Okay, so no moonlighting on the side.
Nope. If you want to switch jobs, the new employer has to start the whole work pass application from scratch.
Okay, so it's tied to that specific employer.
Right. All right, so let's say you figured out which visa or work pass you need.
You've got your plan in place.
What's next?
Well, it all comes down to the paperwork. What are some of those essential documents that people need to get ready?
moveandstay.com is very clear about this. Your documents need to be perfect.
No room for error.
Let's start with the most important one, your passport.
The golden ticket.
You need at least 6 months of validity remaining from your planned entry date into Malaysia.
Okay, that's pretty standard.
But here's the thing. Some Malaysian embassies or consulates might be stricter. They might want up to 2 years of validity and maybe even more blank pages.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so always double check with the Malaysian embassy in your home country.
That's a good tip.
Plus, airlines sometimes want to see proof of an outbound ticket before they let you board.
So they want to make sure you're not planning on overstaying.
Right. Then you need to show proof of financial stability.
Right, you need to be able to support yourself.
Basically, you need to prove you can pay for your stay.
Makes sense.
This usually means bank statements from the last 3 to 6 months. The exact amount varies depending on the visa and how long you're staying.
Great.
You can also include things like payslips, tax returns, or a letter from your employer confirming your salary.
Got it.
moveandstay.com recommends having these documents both physically and digitally.
Always good to have backups.
Absolutely.
So besides the passport and proof of funds, are there any other supporting documents that people might need?
Now it gets more specific to the type of visa.
Okay, so tell me more.
For an employment pass, you'll need your employment contract, copies of your degrees and certificates, and often a criminal record check from your home country.
So they want to make sure you're a legit employee and not a criminal mastermind.
Exactly. For a student visa, you'll need your acceptance letter from the institution and proof of tuition payment.
Right, so you're actually enrolled and paying your dues.
And for the MM2H visa, you need to prove your savings income and other financial assets.
So they want to see that you're financially secure for the long haul.
Right. The best advice moveandstay.com gives is to check directly with the Malaysian Embassy or High Commission in your country.
Right, don't just assume you know what you need.
They'll give you the most up-to-date list of required documents.
Okay, good advice. But let's be real, even if you've done everything perfectly, things can still go wrong.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What are some of those challenges that people might face during the visa application process?
Well, one possibility is visa denials.
Oof, that's the one you don't want to hear.
Right. moveandstay.com says this can happen because of incomplete documents not meeting the eligibility criteria or even changes in immigration policies.
Oh, wow. So it's not always in your control.
Right. That's why it's so important to double-check everything.
Yeah, and if you're not sure, especially with the more complex visas, it might be worth getting professional help.
Definitely. Another hurdle can be the processing times.
Oh, yeah. Those can be notoriously long.
Sometimes it takes much longer than you expect.
So patience is key.
Absolutely. moveandstay.com suggests keeping track of your application status, making copies of all your documents, and just trying to be patient.
Easier said than done sometimes, especially if you have travel plans.
I know. But it's important.
It is. So once you actually get to Malaysia, what are some of the other challenges that expats might run into?
One of the big ones is understanding the local regulations.
Right, every country has its own rules.
Malaysia's laws can be quite different from what you're used to.
So what kind of areas are we talking about?
Everything from employment laws and housing regulations to traffic rules.
Oh, wow. So it's really comprehensive.
Yeah, and not knowing these rules can lead to fines, legal problems, or even deportation.
Yikes, that's serious.
moveandstay.com gives a good example. They talk about the specific requirements for opening a corporate bank account in Malaysia.
Right, so it's not just about everyday life, it also affects business.
Exactly. Don't assume things work the same way as in your home country.
Right, you have to do your homework.
Learn the local customs and laws.
Good advice. So is there anything people can do to make this whole process smoother? Any tips from the experts?
Definitely moveandstay.com really recommends consulting with immigration experts.
Okay, so get professional help.
They compare it to trying to build furniture without instructions.
I like that analogy.
You might get there eventually, but it's going to be frustrating.
And probably won't look as good.
Exactly. Immigration experts know the system inside and out. They can give you personalized advice and help you avoid mistakes.
So it's an investment in peace of mind.
Absolutely. Another tip is to be prepared for any visa interviews.
Right, those can be nerve-wracking.
Practice answering common questions about why you want to live or work in Malaysia.
Okay.
Have all your documents organized, dress professionally, and be on time.
Sounds like good interview advice in general.
It is. And most importantly, be honest and consistent in your answers.
Right, any inconsistencies can raise red flags.
Exactly.
Now, what about staying up to date with the latest requirements? Immigration policies can change, right?
Oh yeah, they can change and sometimes quickly.
So how can people stay informed?
MoveInStay.com recommends regularly checking the official Malaysian Immigration Department website.
Okay.
Follow reputable news sources on immigration, and maybe even subscribe to newsletters from immigration law firms.
So be proactive about staying informed.
Exactly. That way, you're meeting the current requirements.
Good advice. And I love that they suggested setting up a mail forwarding address.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. You don't want to miss any important letters.
Absolutely. So to sum it all up, what's the key takeaway for our listeners who are thinking about Kuala Lumpur?
I think the main message is that whether you're going for a short business trip or a longer stay, you need to understand the different visa options and what they require.
Right. And that it's not one size fits all.
Preparation is absolutely key.
It really is. Hopefully this deep dive has given everyone a better understanding of the process.
Yeah, it made it feel a little less overwhelming.
Exactly. Now it's time for our listeners to take that first step.
Do your research.
Figure out what applies to your specific situation.
Check out the official Malaysian Immigration Department website, and maybe even reach out to an immigration expert for personalized advice.
And, thinking about all of this, it really highlights how important it is to understand these processes in our increasingly globalized world.
It does.
It's not just about paperwork. It's about being able to experience different cultures and contribute to a global community.
Yeah, it's something to think about as you're planning your journey.
Exactly. All right, well, that's our deep dive on the Malaysia visa process.
We hope you found it helpful.
Happy travels, everyone.
And until next time.
Bye.